As we've worked our way through the 6 economic stages of competitive agility, what we've seen is a need to reduce batch size and control transaction costs so that we can speed up our ability to check for signals. What we have not done effectively up to this point is ensure that signal checking is an external problem. Up to this point, it's fully possible, especially in a very large enterprise with a top-down hierarchy and lots of bureaucracy around the funding mechanism of the organization, that all signaling is still internal, meaning we've done nothing to mitigate the risk of information asymmetry between us and the market itself. Up to this point, most of our effort in reducing information asymmetry has been between technology and business. They don't necessarily know enough about what the other does at times to really make the rational economic decisions we need them to make. There's this my information is better than your information situation, and it occurs on both sides. To mitigate this, we have to create a shared understanding of economics. We have to create a decision-making framework that allows them to utilize proxy variables like product metrics to work based upon hypothesis and begin experimenting. Now at this point, that means that the teams are able to gradually take control. As the teams are not blamed for failure, the experiment is what fails. The underlying logic of the hypothesis-driven organization is that everything is an experiment. We have gone from a point of believing that we should infinitely grow our batch size because we are confident politically in what we want to do from a strategic perspective, to the opposite end of the spectrum, where we don't assume we have perfect knowledge because we know the pace of technology adoption is moving extremely quickly. We assume that information is imperfect, and we assume that there is product risk, and that our only way to mitigate it is to continuously check for signals. In methodologies like Lean UX, Lean Startup, or Agile Marketing, these all take a very similar approach. It's not good enough to have the political power to get the funding to implement social. You need to look at your actual actionable product metrics and be able to make a falsifiable hypothesis about whether or not your experiment failed. Now, once we're able to do this, things like multivariate testing, of course, enter the picture, but in general, the ability to test multiple options at once becomes available to us. And this is of critical importance. The teams are no longer blamed for failure. The falsifiable hypothesis is disproven. Now, the other thing you'll notice within the economics is we begin to manage cost of delay directly. We have such good knowledge of the market and its demands that we can start to actually put a price on this. Our economic framework is getting more complete, and you can see that while there's a clear U-curve optimization very early in our batch size, we don't run the risk as often of waiting a little bit longer to make sure we do the right thing, since it's so disposable. Now, one thing is, centralization is what will slow us down the most. The more we attempt to contain things within our bureaucracy we already had, the more we attempt to leave the hierarchy in place, the worse this is going to be. We need to decentralize control to the teams again and create a valuable set of coordination mechanisms to help them do things as rapidly as possible. That's how we get to the culture of innovation.